Spider-Man: Far From Home 2019. The films open in a Mexican city, where Nick Fury, Samuel L. Jackson, and Maria Hill, Kobe Smulders, have shown up to examine the region after a detailed twister, with a face, had torn through the city. Minutes after the fact, the two experience a being known as an elemental, explicitly the one that can manipulate Earth. Rage and Maria are met by a man in a super-fueled suit named Quentin Beck, Jake Gyllenhaal, and he helps the two battle the Earth elemental. Slice to Midtown School of Science and Technology, where Betty Brant, Angourie Rice, and Jason Ionello, Jorge Lindeborg Jr., are doing their everyday school news report. However, they start with an in memoriam committed to Tony Stark, Steve Rogers, Natasha Romanoff, and Vision. Betty recaps the occasions of the snap, or the blip, as it is called here from Justice Fighters Endgame, with many understudies having been tidied away prior to getting back to life, and observing that a portion of their more youthful cohorts has now outperformed them actually. Peter Parker, Tom Holland, examines with Ned Leeds, Jacob Batalon, his arrangements to prevail upon Michelle Jones per megajoule, Zendaya, on whom he has fostered a squash. They are preparing for a class outing to Europe, and Peter trusts that he can tell her how he feels. Peter later goes to a pledge drive as Spider-Man, with Aunt May, Marissa Tomei, there to help him, and we discover that she got blipped as well. They are met by Happy Hogan, Jon Favreau, who has all the earmarks of being playing with May. He surrenders Peter a heads that Fury will call him, which he does immediately, yet Peter disregards him since he has different things to stress over. He returns outside as Spidey to converse with journalists, yet they overpower him with inquiries concerning turning into the new Iron Man or the following lead Avenger, so he leaves. The class later heads out for the excursion, with Peter deciding to leave the Spidey suit behind to partake in his getaway. However, he later observes that May pressed it for him at any rate. They are escorted by Mr. Harrington, Martin Starr, and Mr. Dell, J.B. Smoove, and are joined by different understudies, including Flash Thompson, Tony Revolori, who is as yet a major Spidey fan yet additionally still dumps on Peter. On the plane, Peter attempts to get Ned to assist him with exchanging seats so he can sit with MJ. However, Ned just goals Mr. Harrington to take Peter while MJ is situated close to Brad Davis, Remy Hii, who is one of the children that didn't get clean and developed into an attractive athletic hotshot. Peter is obviously envious, while Ned sits close to Betty, and they wind up turning into a couple. The class shows up in Venice, Italy for their first stop. They stay in a messy lodging, yet they invest in some opportunity to partake in the sights, while Peter attempts to draw nearer to MJ. Out of nowhere, the water levels on the ground begin rising. Before long, a monstrous water elemental starts to unleash devastation upon the city, utilizing water to flood the city or annihilate structures. Peter attempts to take care of business, however, he left his Spidey suit at the inn. Beck shows up and utilizes his powers to battle the water elemental. He can quell the animal's assaults before, at last, parting the animal in two. He is viewed as a legend by Peter's cohorts, and subsequent to watching a news report on him, they begin to refer to him as Mysterio. Peter and Ned return to their room, yet Ned gets sedated by Fury. He has been attempting to definitely stand out, and it hasn't worked up to this point. They need to pass on the space to talk in private since everybody continues to hind them. Rage takes Peter to his mysterious safe house to meet Maria and Beck. Beck clarifies that he is from another Earth, which is where the elementals are coming from. This was probably brought about by the snap, and Beck asserts that the fire elemental was the one that obliterated his homeworld and his loved ones. Wrath needs Peter's assistance in retaliating, yet he believes he isn't the Avenger that is able to battle creatures like these. Rage commandeers the class excursion by having his worker, Dimitri, Newman Akar, go about as a driver to their new and startling objective, Prague, as Fury and Beck have discovered that is the place where the fire elemental is set to strike. Prior to taking off, Peter is taken by a tall woman, sent by Fury to give him a secret suit. She arranges for him to remove his garments and put them on. However, he is found by Brad, who takes a pic of Peter in what resembles a compromising position. Peter pursues him to dispose of the pic. However, Brad says he realizes that Peter likes MJ as well, and he thinks showing her this will make her incline more toward Brad. On their excursion, Peter tracks down Tony's super advanced glasses. Edith, voice of Dawn Michelle King, means, even dead, I'm the hero, which Tony left for his replacement. Peter requests that Edith handle Brad, which is confounded as a solicitation for an assault. Peter needs, to some degree, prudently prevent the approaching robot from killing Brad, as well as the entire class. He simply has Edith hack into Brad's telephone and erases the image. Subsequent to showing up in Prague, Mr. Harrington lets the understudies know that they were given passes to the drama, which ruins their arrangements to go to the fair. Yet it was arranged by Fury to keep Peter's companions inside to try not to be trapped in the way of the fire elemental. Peter is compelled to remain outside and be watching out, which ruins his arrangement to sit close to MJ. She follows him outside, and Ned and Betty understand since they think the other two are set out toward the festival. Outside, the fire elemental arises and starts to frenzy. Spidey and Mysterio collaborate against the monster, attempting to try not to allow it to contact metal, or, in all likelihood it will get all the more impressive. Ned and Betty are caught on the Ferris wheel as Spidey attempts to save them, while Mysterio battles the fire elemental. Spidey fires a web at the monster, which hauls something out of it, and makes it land almost a secret MJ. Mysterio then, at that point, utilizes his powers to plunge into the fire elemental's chest and obliterate it. Peter goes down to ensure he is okay. Nonetheless, he actually gets berated by Fury for not doing everything he said to him. As the group moves to Berlin, Peter and Beck are called by Fury and Maria to examine shaping another group. Peter secretly meets with Beck, and Peter feels that Beck is the one that really merits Edith since he thinks Tony just passed on it for him to pick who truly deserves to succeed Iron Man. After Peter leaves, Beck brings down what has been an entire deception in a flimsy structure. Everybody there works for him, and they are totally disappointed with previous representatives of Stark Industries. Beck has been making up the elementals to get individuals to see him as the legend, utilizing robots to make the obliteration left behind by their appearances. Everybody there has been pissed at Tony for taking their work, now his binary augmented retro framing, barf, and he has all cooperated to get individuals to disregard Iron Man or Spider-Man, and to clear a path for Mysterio. Peter returns to the inn to welcome MJ to go out with him without any other person. As he attempts to tell her how he feels, she slices him off to uncover she knows he's Spider-Man, due to the many occurrences, including them being in similar spots simultaneously. She then, at that point, takes out what she found at the site of the fire elemental battle, a projector that shows Mysterio battling the at this point inconspicuous air elemental. The two understand that Beck is behind the elementals and that he is a fake. As Beck and his thugs plan for the air elemental, Vindicator's level assault, they observe that the missing projector from one of their robots is in Peter's grasp. Peter goes to meet with Fury and Maria about Beck's actual intentions. However, it turns out Beck has up to speed with Peter first, and has made a whole deception to trap him in. He insults Peter for not being the legend he needs to be, and even powers him to persevere through a projection of Tony erupting from his grave and emerging to threaten him. It seems like Fury represses Beck and asks Peter who else he told about Beck, and he concedes that he told MJ, Ned, and that Ned presumably told Betty. This ends up being another of Beck's stunts, and presently he knows to kill Peter's companions. He additionally places Peter in the way of a train, which seems to strike him. However, Peter is simply harmed downright terribly, and he drops on the train. Peter awakens in a prison cell in the Netherlands. In the wake of breaking out, he calls Happy to come to get him. While Happy watches out for his injuries, Peter separates and says that he doesn't get why Tony would pick him as a replacement when he continues messing everything up. Blissful consoles him that Tony had faith in him for an explanation. and that he realized Peter would be the legend he should be. Peter gets himself and goes to make himself another suit from Tony's PC before they head to London to save his companions. The class is taking a visit transport ride around London, yet it's driven by one of Beck's thugs. They stop on the London Bridge as Mysterio prepares the air elemental to assault. Spidey appears in another suit for the fight to come. Cheerful goes to get Ned, MJ, Betty, and Flash, yet his fly gets exploded, and they need to stow away in a middle-aged tower as the robots pursue them. They stow away in a room, yet MJ manages to thump down a robot with a mace prior to remaining secured in a room. Spidey enters the deception of the air elemental and networks every one of the robots together to motivate them to crash and break the deception. He continues to annihilate more robots before Mysterio has him cornered and faces a swarm of robots coordinated at him while under deception. Utilizing his spider sense, Spidey evades every one of the robots, annihilates them all, and in the mayhem, one of them shoots Mysterio. Peter goes to get Edith, however, Beck endeavors one final deception to kill him, and it fizzles, passing on Beck to kick the bucket in shame. Peter then, at that point, debilitates every one of the robots. A while later, he and MJ run onto the scaffold to meet with one another. They recognize their shared sentiments, and they kiss. Rage attempts